tell somebody.
This is the best thing I've ever seen.
That. Let's talk about that.
You need this. Listen to this.
Memorable and exciting.
Well, then be less boring.
I'm going to tell everyone. Wait here.
Mighty remarkable, Big Daddy.
Remarkable.
Welcome to Remarkable, a podcast for B2B marketers that deconstructs the most iconic moments in film, television, pop culture, and advertising for a single purpose: to give you, the B2B marketer, the same storytelling techniques that the pros use. In each episode, you will learn techniques from Hollywood, Pixar, Marvel, and beyond, from Spielberg's hands to yours, bringing remarkable content ideas to you every single week. I'm Ian Faison, CEO of Caspian Studios. This is Remarkable. This week, we're talking about marketing lessons from TikTok creators with the help of our special guest, award-winning marketing leader, Rhonda Hughes. Rhonda, how are you?
I'm doing well.
Great to have you on the show. Excited to chat marketing. So why the heck did you pick TikTok creators today?
Yeah. I mean, it takes a lot of bravery, I think, to show up in TikTok. And I've really enjoyed, first of all, looking through the archives of what your former guests have done and what they highlighted. But I chose TikTok because I feel like it's such a fun playground for content creativity, especially for small businesses. It's one of the few platforms where I feel like number of followers doesn't hinder your success. And so it's a channel where being scrappy and unexpected and just weird enough is really thriving for brands. So I think there's a lot that marketers can and should learn from that.
I couldn't agree more. What's interesting about TikTok so much to me is there's many things, but specifically as it relates to sort of discoverability in that piece is like, it kind of just does, the content lives on its own. Like, you know, obviously being a huge creator matters, but like the actual videos have to be good to sort of get fed to the algorithm. And so the more time you spend on making the video great, the better chance it has. And of course, there's diminishing returns, and we'll get into that. But I just think that that's a sort of a different play than we're used to, in B2B, where we sort of just go from one thing to the next with sort of like, this is, I farmed it out to this person and they took a crack at it and I think it's good enough and let's move on to the next.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like for some of the ones that I was doing research about and looking at it through the lens, because, right, TikTok is actually one of my favorite platforms. I get a lot out of it. I like the dorky side of it. But what I was getting out of it is that you have to tell a story broader than your product. And I think that's always been the case and where you can thrive from a marketing standpoint. But in TikTok, you really have to. Like, it's the only way that you're going to get attention from a broader audience. And so for the creators that I, found that I was really inspired by, you can tell that they get it and that it's not just about the product that they're selling. They are thinking about things from that audience standpoint, and they're finding a broader, more interesting way to tell the story that's relevant to their brand. So it's not just like totally off on the rails, but it's like adjacent, a couple steps out, and packaging in a way that like connects and educates and inspires. And they're being authentic and human and just creating value for that audience. So I feel like that's really powerful.
And zooming out, you have been a VP of brand or corporate marketing or content at Spiceworks, Mural, Zoom, SurveyMonkey, Citrix. You've been there, done that. You are our prototypical, SVP of brand content, comms, strategy, everything in between. Have you used TikTok in terms of like, not you, but like with the brands that you've worked with? I guess just how did you think about it when you were at those brands?
Yeah. Yes, we did actually. So, starting with Zoom, actually, I joined Zoom about a month after the pandemic to lead content and social media. And that was an unprecedented time, we'll say. It's actually kind of interesting because all the things that I typically, teach people when I'm talking about how to be relevant to your audience is to not talk about your product. But in the world where the entire world is using their product, you actually can play a lot more on the product side. And so I had a really fantastic social team that I got to play, alongside with, but I have to give them credit on coming up with a strategy where you're really looking at it through the audience standpoint and you're saying like, what's going on in the world? Everybody's using Zoom. Maybe there's misinformation out there. So we actually won a TikTok award for best B2B campaign that was around security and misinformation, like myth busting. And they just, like the team, it was Julie Brute, Melissa Francois, and Allison McCarthy, who just came up with a really creative way to kind of bring this stuff to life in a human kind of engaging way. I remember the song that played for one of the top performing, I think it had like 11 million organic views on this video that was just taking something that was misinformation around, I think it was around people could unmute the like admin could unmute you or hide your video or something like that. And they created something that was just like interesting and engaging, and it kind of took off. And so I think that's the way that I would think about approaching a channel like TikTok, is coming at it from your audience standpoint, trying to figure out what's the connection point with your brand, and then like playing around with the trends, the trending songs, the trending themes, the different things that are happening. So it's kind of like wrapping it in the context of what the world is doing too.
I love that. We spend so much time and effort trying to be so smart. And I feel like, and telling stories that are thousands of words long and white papers that are 50 pages and all these things. And like, it's the, the classic adage, I would have wrote you a shorter letter, but I didn't have the time. Which is like, if you can't tell the story in 10 seconds, then you probably can't, then why should I trust you with, 50 minutes? And I think that like, so often people don't, brands, B2B companies, I like to say companies rather than brands most of the time. It's true for certain, but for B2B, it's like, it's a company, not a brand. Anyways, I digress. We can get into that later if you want. But for B2B companies, I think that so often they, sort of like dismiss the storytelling of a TikTok because they don't want to be singular and just talk about this one thing. And they miss this sort of like utility of the piece, which is telling something fast and clever and funny or clever or funny or whatever. And then the other piece is that they don't really, they always have to have a purpose. And sometimes like our life is not, we're consuming things that are just so elemental, like, watching someone chisel something in wood with that like super high graphic camera. And you're like, I'm just watching this guy. I don't even know what this person is doing. They're just digging in some wood with a chisel. And like, and I think that like so often like brands and companies want to have some like higher purpose for every single thing. Whereas like making your audience smile is like good enough sometimes.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with you there. I tend to like approach content in a really simple kind of content pillar format for social. And it's connect, educate, inspire. And that connection is usually like what you're talking about with the chiseling the wood and the stuff. It's like, that's maybe not educating you on what the product is and how it's so great and yada, yada, yada. But it's finding the audience that geeks out on that kind of stuff. One, so you're finding your tribe. And then two, you're like, having a little fun with it. And when I think about building like brand affinity, what is that? That's a fancy word for saying that you're likable. I like you because when I see in your content that you are excited about what you're building and that there's like, and it's contagious when you see people that actually are geeking out on, leaning into their like passion, or they're having a little fun with it. Like you can tell that their team is enjoying something. That goes a long way for making you a likable brand to me. And so I feel like there is business value for that. While it's harder to define because what you want is, I want somebody to sign up for my webinar. I want somebody to buy my product today. We're all just like making these decisions, not always every day. So you've got to be building that connection and that likability for your brand. And you do that through understanding who your audience is and like leaning into that. And, sometimes like I go back to the Zoom example. One of the things when you think about the world on Zoom at that time was the fact that we were all on Zoom, and that's funny. Yeah. Or like, the humor of meetings, because they're super painful, right? Like, or they can be. And so don't be afraid to have a little fun with that.
Is the video of the guy saying, "I'm not a cat," is that a real video? And was that on Zoom? It's a real video.
Yeah, I think it's real.
The funniest thing.
The lawyer one. Oh my goodness.
I can hear you. I think it's a filter.
It is, and I don't know how to remove it. I've got my assistant here. She's trying to, but I'm prepared to go forward with it. I'm here live. I'm not a cat.
We had fun on that one too, by the way. We turned around a blog post, like, I think it was a day, explaining to people how to turn their filters off. We had a whole lot of fun as a brand playing
amazing.
with that kind of stuff because it was the public conversation. We're all going through this, whether it was like doing life or doing work or education, literally everything was happening. And so it gave us the opportunity as a brand to really be relevant in anything that we chose to be. And so we chose to do it in a fun way.
I'm not a cat, you know. It's all it boils down to. Okay, Meredith. What the heck are TikTok creators?
So a lot of this is kind of self-explanatory. And if you've ever been on TikTok, you know, it seems a little bit obvious.
That is Meredith O'Neill, our amazing producer extraordinaire.
I think the thing that stands out to me most about TikTok and these content creators is that they really niche down. And so they'll have a really specific topic that they specialize in. That's sort of like their brand. And so within that, the other thing that they do is they get really creative and have a lot of fun with whatever topic they're discussing or they're posting about. And so often you see the term talk added to these niches or niches. So there's like book talk, witch talk, dark academia is one, frog talk. I have questions about the frog talk one, but I think I've seen some of the videos. And so I think like the more niche that they get, the more specific their topic is, I feel like almost like the better chance they have of finding their intended audience that sort of like gets them. Another thing that I wanted to point out is like a lot of these videos are just like filmed on an iPhone. Like they're not professionally edited. They might clip them up on like CapCut or really like beginner friendly app. But often the idea is you're seeing real people doing real things in real places. And so minus AI content, I would say, because there is some of that too. But the real idea is like, it feels authentic. You're getting sort of an inside view on the person's life or a person's job or whatever it is they're posting about. And I feel like we're all just like super curious about how other people live and exist. And so you see some of that like draw towards folks living like a luxurious lifestyle or folks who are renovating an English countryside cottage, like things, people are doing really specific things. And also they understand that they're catering to a time poor audience. And so they make these quick, fast paced videos. I think, and Rhonda, correct me if I'm wrong, I think they can actually post up to like 10 minutes. Does that sound right?
Yeah, they've gotten a lot longer. So, yeah. I mean, and you'll see a mix of it. And sometimes I find myself watching a very long video because it's that helpful, right?
Yes.
But to your point about authenticity, I feel like you had asked before about the lessons of, TikTok creators. I feel like that's a big one, that the most engaging content isn't the most polished. And oftentimes that's part of what's so endearing. Like, it's like you can tell that this was just a creative idea and somebody with their camera and they're rallying the folks internally around how they bring the story to life. And that's part of what makes it so like relatable and likable.
Definitely. And like people will drop their phone or they'll stutter. They'll like, I think all of that just kind of adds to sort of the charm and the feeling that like you're seeing a person who is making human errors. It's not like computer generated or anything. One other thing that I noticed about TikTok specifically is like, because everything is so fast paced, often like I see videos where it's like, if it's like kind of a monologue where the person's talking to the camera, obviously they cut pauses, but almost to an extreme at times. So it's almost overlapping a little bit, the things that they're saying to just keep the pace up. So I thought that was interesting. And then the main thing, Rhonda, you mentioned that really like made me think about this is like, you said they create helpful content. So it's like, I love learning stuff from these videos and a lot of it is educational. And I think if they don't find value in what you're posting, like you won't get as many views. But I think there are certain things that just to sum it up, that I've sort of noticed are common among really popular and successful TikTok content is lower production value, right? So not professionally edited. Their videos, not stills, and that's obvious. Bite-sized content, so quick videos, often under a minute. Personally relevant content, and that's sort of helped by the algorithm. You're getting fed the ability to constantly scroll through stuff that you're interested in, and that gets more dialed in as time goes on. A lot of them use trending sounds or music. Sometimes though, Rhonda, I don't know if you feel this way, but like I get annoyed when I hear the same song over and over and over again. Like it's almost getting like overly used. Like Lola Young, do you know her song Messy? I feel like I've heard that over and over again.
It's funny because when you engage with one, then you will see them all. I cannot remember the name of this trend, but it's interesting because you were like, that's not funny. Stills. But there was this one that it was more of like a public, I don't know the right word for it, but it was like everybody getting involved. And it was the Muppet still. Do you remember this one? And they were telling the most like embarrassing, crazy stories that they've ever had. And then everybody's using the sound and this like little Muppet guy or whatever. Uh-huh. Yeah, it's one of those. And that's where I feel like it can be a lot of different things. Like it's almost the thing that nobody else is doing is the thing that will stand out. Yes. It is also that you can jump onto other people's trends. And that's part of the fun, like looking in the comments and seeing how some of these brands, some people like, the comments themselves are gold in a way that most other social channels, you don't see that sort of goodness.
Yeah, that's so true. That is so true. And then I think like they also use a lot of hashtags and SEO. And the other thing that I know that they do is like engage with their audiences through TikTok. So that's another thing that I think adds to the authenticity is, engaging with people, liking things, sharing things, commenting, I think really drives engagement as well. Rhonda, I'm wondering, so I know you have examples that you want to share of like businesses that do this really well. I'm wondering if you want to share like what sort of your TikTok is feeding to you, like what are the sort of niches that you're seeing a lot based on your algorithm?
Oh, Stick Nation. Do you guys know Stick Nation?
Yes, I do.
Stick Nation.
It's like, so for anybody who isn't, it's somebody somewhere one time was like, this is a cool stick. And now people around the world are sharing the cool sticks that they find. And that is all this trend is people just sharing cool sticks.
Hello, Stick Nation. I'm calling from Uppsala in Sweden. And I want to show this amazing stick that I found.
And the like community around this is so heartwarming and I just love it. And I love to think of whoever started it. That's part of where I geek out on a lot of this is like somebody somewhere was like, this is a really cool stick and the world needs to see it. Yes. And from there, it has inspired such its own little, public meme goodness. I don't even know. There should be a word for what that is. There probably is, but I just don't know it.
That's so cool. Don't they give like, they like almost not ratings, but like will give like this has health +2 or something. It's like a video game reference. Something like that.
Yeah, I've seen that in the comments and stuff too. I mean, that's the part that I love about social media, going back to the early days of social, because I've been in social media as a profession since like Facebook was for EDU only, like you had to have an EDU email address. And TikTok was like Twitter was 140 characters and no images and no links. Like that's
right. Oh my gosh.
And where brands were trying to figure out like, how can we play in this space? And then now you come back to this. And what I love about TikTok is just the connection part, the part that like you will do something dorky and then other people will take this. There was that like the Black men like frolicking trend that I loved. And, just so it's the stuff that starts to build connection across people, but in a really heartwarming and like dorky kind of way. So
yeah, I love that too. Oh, that's so cool. And you had other examples as well?
Let's get into the SMBs.
So it was actually really fun to look at it through this way because, TikTok and is your For You page is personal to you. And so some of these had been on my radar for some time, but as I knew I was going to have this conversation, I was like, let me see what else I can find out there. And just generally speaking, there is so much creativity out there. That's part of what I just want to celebrate is the fact that, so many of these small business, it's not necessarily even the marketing person. It's like the owner who just had to have some bravery around, I'm not going to do marketing the way everybody else does it. I'm going to do it this way. And I just love that. So one of the ones I want to feature is SB Mowing. Have you guys heard about the lawn guy?
Oh, yeah.
Well, I have because you shared it, but I didn't know about it before this.
So SB Mowing, it's run by a guy, Spencer B. in Wichita, Kansas. And it's a lawn care business that went viral by transforming overgrown, neglected lawns for free. So he drove around his neighborhood, found one that was in disarray.
Hey, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good. I noticed your grass was getting a little bit tall. I was going to see if you're interested in having it cut.
Somebody was supposed to come. They started on the backyard and then they kind of just left. So I'm not sure if they're coming back.
What if I do it for free for you?
And so he just takes the video of him cutting the grass and fixing it, and like the transformation of, there's places where you didn't even know there's a sidewalk, and now there's a sidewalk. And it's something that like super satisfying to the brain. What you were talking about, like with the whittling wood, there's that part. But then it's also the kind of community component and the fact that, if you think about, what a company might do for their marketing, they're going to pay for ads here, maybe like a radio spot, Instead, he's like, I'm going to go cut somebody's yard for free. And that person's then going to tell their friends, and I'm going to have some content. And it really took off. The first TikTok, I think he did it on YouTube first. And he's been doing this for like cutting lawns and having a business for like many, many years, since he was like 11. But his first TikTok that he put out there was like 6 million views in just a couple days. Like this little company that has no followers, you're getting this kind of visibility. And it is, I think that combo of, it's just satisfying to watch the before and after from this like mess to cleanliness. And then there's that community of like the warm and fuzzy feeling of helping out the community. So today, it is the largest lawn care pressure washing social media brand in the world, with over 40 million followers and 3 billion views, which is
crazy.
Nuts.
That's crazy.
And I think he's actually shifted to doing this full time now, like the content piece. He still does the yards for free, but like I don't know if he still has that business. So that's the one I wanted to spotlight first. So just like super creative way to bring this kind of.
Did you see the one where he found a kitten?
No, I did not.
I
did see the one where he donated, he like got a GoFundMe for this lady and raised a ton of money, like $800,000 or something
beautiful.
For her. So.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, I follow him and I love that. And you're right. It's something about the transformation. He shows all of the work that he puts into it. So you really see how hardworking he is. And then I love that you see him like connecting with neighbors and being like, oh, they just can't keep up with how fast the lawn is growing. And just that, I think I love the mission-driven accounts like that. But yeah, I think it works on multiple levels. Like you said, that like satisfying transformation, and then the connection with community, I think helps a lot.
And in this case, it's like, it's very specifically, you're showing what he does, right? So like finding a way to show what he does, but there be like a good component to it is super brilliant. And I could see where other businesses could apply the same model and do something really cool. So
definitely.
Okay, so number 2 that I want to spotlight is it's a car dealership. It's called Mohawk Chevrolet. They only have like 160 some odd thousand followers, but they're based in Malta, New York, and they stood out from other, kind of boring car dealerships where you walk by and say, here's the car, da, 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 da. It's in a kind of hilarious office style, so like the Office show, TikTok miniseries, and it is hilarious.
I don't know if you've heard Mohawk Honda's jingle that they don't use anymore, which is a crime, but... Come to Mohawk Honda, you'll go out of our way to please you. It's so good.
It features their own staff as the stars, and you can kind of think of it as like, if you're familiar with The Office, but with cars and community pride, and it's like the packaging. And this is where my brain starts to geek out of like, okay, somebody had this idea and then they pitched it. And then they took that blob of an idea and they helped to shape it. And then they went and brought it to life. And I love that so much. So I wanted to like spotlight them as well.
Is there an example of a skit that stood out to you that they did?
It's just the way that they bring it all to life. Like there's not a specific one. There's a whole series that you can look at. They film it at their dealership. And they just have all these local references, the way that they speak in this. There's a lot of inside jokes. It makes the brand feel so much less business and more like the small town sitcom that you would watch on TV or something. So it's like the scripted skits with some humor and then like a little bit of the local charm on top.
It sounds like you'd kind of get to know the people working there through their parts in the skit. I love it. And what's the third one?
Okay, so there's generally speaking, I've been very inspired by libraries because I feel like they're bringing stuff to life in such creative ways. I mean, I love books, so you got me sold already, but libraries are not really known to be the like most engaging places or that sort of thing. And so the first one that came on my radar, there was like half a dozen by the end that I had a list of like, oh, they're all doing such great things. But Cincinnati Public Library was one of the first that came on my radar. They only have 65,000 followers, but they came up in my For You page months ago. They really, really lean into these the conversational trends, like what's happening in the world, pop culture, and they find ways to bring it to life in this like really surprising way. And so one of the series that they do is reimagining songs by different pop singers, like Taylor Swift was one, or Chappell Roan was another, where it's like the song and then they're clipping it and they're like applying it to as if you're having conversations about books or checking out books in the library.
Gosh. Hi, aren't you?
Hi, Chappell.
Welcome to the library. How's the weather out there? Yes, it's so hot outside. I'm so glad we have AC, but do you have a library card?
And it's as funny as it sounds. It's really creative. To your point before, it's not super polished. Like all of their videos aren't super polished. You can tell that it's like, somebody in there with a camera kind of running the show, but it's just a lot of people having fun and being really creative of like, this is what's happening in the world. Let's make books about it, kind of thing.
That's so cool. Well, especially because it's almost counter to the sort of serious librarian cliche that we think of. And it sounds like they're having lots of fun, which I love. Like, I feel like we've talked about this before on the show, is just like, make something that you think is funny, that's entertaining for you and that you want to see in the world. And I feel like that's what you're seeing with the library and, the other accounts as well.
Yeah. I also saw a lot of this kind of applying the trends of the day with zoos and aquariums. And I didn't feature them because I'm like, oh, you guys have cute animals. Like, you're always going to want me to do anything. Yeah. But it was the same kind of application of, I almost imagine them sitting in a newsroom kind of thing of like, okay, here's the trending things going on today. What could we play with? And there's something really fun about that.
Definitely. I feel like on that same note, I follow a handful of animal rescues. And there's always that you want to see them rescued. You want to see them rehabilitated. You want the transformation from like losing their fur to like, have a beautiful glossy fur coat. It's that kind of thing. It's like, I want to see them succeed. I'm invested. That's all you have to do is show me a puppy that has been left on the side of the road. And I'm in.
That's what you knew about the kitten one with Long Guy.
Yeah. Well, that's how I found him, is that video came up on my For You page or whatever. It was actually on Instagram. And then I ended up following the rescue that he turned it over to. And I ended up actually donating. Like, I was fully invested, donated to the kittens fund. And the rescue did other videos on like, here's how, I forget the kitten's name, here's how so-and-so is doing. And so they give updates, and that kept me like, I was hooked. So you really get, I don't know. I think that's, for me personally, is the way that like my algorithm is like, I'm going to reel her in. Like, let's show her this kitten that needs some help. So
I love it.
I mean, I love the transform, like dog and cat videos, right? It's like, obviously like, the dodo has been doing that forever and a day. But I think that, what you touched on is sort of that authenticity of it coming from a place, right? Like, it's the library is a place. The guy is, the lawn care guy, like is a lawnmower. Like, it's like, it is reality TV in, microbytes, that you actually do feel a connection to because it's real, like you just feel like you're supporting this person even just by watching their stuff. But the individualized content, like the difference between that and like the dodo, for example, is like that is like a feed of all sorts of different, whatever, dog and cat videos and animal rescue videos and all that sort of stuff, which is inherently interesting. But that takes like a different sort of life when you're following the actual, shelter directly. Whereas like the dodo knows how to make really good content because they can cut it up and, do it, this other way. Whereas what you see with these other folks is that they are learning to make it and sort of rough, because it's rough around the edges, or authentic, that's how it is. That's how it's so successful, part of
it. And I just personally love celebrating that kind of marketing and that kind of creativity, because I'm like, it takes, part of the reason that I feel like these marketers or these kinds of businesses are so remarkable is because it takes guts. to be doing something that nobody else is doing. Like, it's part of the reason. It's like a bravery, right? Like, if everybody's doing marketing in this way, then yeah, that's the recipe. That's the rule book. Go this way. But when you have this kind of crazy little idea and you're like, I'm going to do it this way instead. And there's a lot that you can get inspired from now. You were talking about before of like inspiration that you've taken. So it's not so far out of the realm of existence. And that's part of the reason I like to like shine a light on the cool things that these folks are doing, is that hopefully it helps other people that had that little idea be like, okay, I feel a little bit more confident with trying, and how do I get there? But there's somebody, what was the brand years ago? We were talking about libraries, TSA. TSA's Instagram back in like 2017. Talk about something that you didn't expect from a government agency, but the amount of affinity. So those of you that are listening that don't know, TSA has a really fantastic Instagram account. I think it's probably on all platforms now, but they started with sharing just the wild things that people try to bring through security at the airport. And it's wild, y'all. And I think that part gave me such empathy for TSA, because I was like, how annoying would it be that people are trying to like bring whatever, animals and knives and everything in between through, but they showed it in such an interesting human way. So not what you would expect from a brand like TSA. And I think about what it took. I think the guy's name was like Bob or something, because I remember there were a bunch of write-ups around that time for him. I hope that's right. If it's not, sorry. But what I think about that is like, he had an idea and he took it into a room and then had to sell all the people at TSA that were sitting there like, that's not what we do. We do like this. And so that's where, when I see good marketing, which I feel like good marketing is marketing that doesn't feel like marketing, or good content is content that doesn't feel like marketing content, that's where I want to like celebrate those folks, is that process of bringing that kind of weird idea and then shaping it to be a little bit better with the people around you. I want to be that person that's like high-fiving you and like nudging you along to help you get to that place, because we are our own worst enemies when it comes to that. Like, I've talked myself out of probably a lot of what would have been award-winning ideas, but so even when you're further in your career, it's hard because you're doing something that nobody else is doing. And that in itself is vulnerable. And I think that's part of what brings it and makes it so likable on the channel.
All right. Other marketing takeaways.
I think fun is a differentiator, especially in B2B.
Yes.
Yep.
We forget that our audience is humans. And so like the things that you like screenshot and send to a friend, that's the same stuff that your audience is going to screenshot and send to a friend with, their own flavor of it. But to figure out your brand's own authentic version of that and be it, whether that's like surprising, delighting. You said the word charm before, and I really like that. Like it's charming, or even make you laugh kind of thing. I think one of the other things is experimentation is a strategy. If I think about like marketing from the yesteryear, there was a lot of like, okay, you're putting all this stuff and then you have one big moment. And now you have access to data right away. You can put something out there and you can tell right away whether it's going to land or not. And there's a lot of variables that go into that. So maybe it's not just that thing. You've got to test over time. But TikTok creators are constantly iterating. They've got to test formats and hooks and trends and sounds, and they have to move fast and be playful with this. And so because of that, they end up being less polished, which is good. But that, I think, is a really important part to all marketers, is that you should be testing and learning and starting small. And then when you see that there's a there, then you put some money and you put the like fuel underneath it to make it bigger kind of thing.
Yeah. So there's two things that I feel really strongly about as it relates to content and marketing, is that there's many things, but these are the two things as it relates to creation that I think are important for this particular conversation. One is you need to have conviction and that big ideas equal big wins. So like there's very few original ideas out there in the world that were not in some form or fashion like a big idea, whatever. Star Wars, space opera, like et cetera, right? like Jurassic Park, Indiana Jones, all these things. I'm just naming Spielberg stuff and George Lucas, but the idea there though is that incredible original ideas that someone sort of like, really championed because they feel like a great idea. Like dinosaurs, everybody loves dinosaurs. What if there's this crazy park and they bring him to life and now people have to escape, right? It's a brilliant idea. You'd sort of have to fight tooth and nail to make sure that gets made because you feel like it's really important. And that's like literally what happened, Jurassic Park, right? The other side of this is the sort of test and iterate that like you don't know what the winners are going to be. Like you just don't. So on the other side, it's like you have to have a mechanism to create lots of pieces of content that are original ideas, hopefully, that are getting out there in the world because you don't know which ones are going to take off. And so it's like you kind of have to be able to do both at the same time, which is say like, hey, we believe that this thing should exist. Like the Remarkable podcast, like we believe that this should exist. It's core to us as an organization that we have stories about blending B2B marketing and other types of content, right? It's like core to us. It has to exist. On the other side, it's like we also need to test and iterate with all sorts of other types of content. Otherwise, you're not capturing in the upside that is you don't know what's going to break out. So it's like that's what makes it hard, right? Is like doing both at the same time. And I think that the way that these folks are able to look at the individual video like a video is really helpful. That it's like just this one thing could succeed on its own and go viral or whatever. And then the other side of this is like, this is also one piece of a broader tapestry that this person has been creating for months or years or longer, that if someone were to sort of dig in, that there's all this other stuff.
Yeah, it's the connectedness. One of the things I love about the way you guys approach this specific podcast is because I think that inspiration can come from anywhere. And a lot of times I feel like with B2B, you'll look at other B2B and it's like, well, in the world of social, your competition is not your competitors. It's actually everybody else. It's the kitty cat memes. It's the lawn guy videos. It's everything else. And so there are ways for you to take a little bit of what they did and apply it within your own, what's real for you, whatever your brand is, insurance, or I don't know. I can't think of anybody else, but I feel like it's not always the original. I would kind of push back on that. It's like all the best ideas have been done, somebody said at one point in time. So it's like, how do you continue to evolve those ideas and maybe even high five to the people who came up with the original, like the OG, you did that. And that inspired me to do X, Y, and Z. And this is the flavor that we're going to carry forward.
Yeah. I mean, I hear you, but also like, again, with Jurassic Park, it's like, but literally nobody had ever told that story. You know what I mean? So it's like there'd been, up until that point, other things that involve dinosaurs, so it's like, yeah, but anyways, I think that it's such a great point to say, like, part of what is beautiful about TikTok is remixing ideas. Like that in the platform, the idea of taking what someone else made and expanding upon that is so important. And like, that's what I think, I saw this thing on TikTok years ago, which like really was years ago that I saw this, which is crazy, that they were like, the reason why TikTok took off so much more than like something like all these other short form video things is because there's so much more power at the creator level. It's just so much easier to remix other people's work and use that and then build off of it. It's almost the way that, you can build in Minecraft or you could build in Legos or whatever. It's like you can just take what someone else did and expand upon it. There's the great viral video. It's kind of mean, but where it's this guy is like, it's like, it's my birthday and here's my girlfriend. Have you seen this video? Oh my gosh. It's like the funniest thing ever. So anyways, it's this guy and he's it's a very dorky sort of presentation.
And because it's my birthday, I get to introduce you to my girlfriend, who is amazing.
And then so basically people just made the video. It's like as if someone made a video next to it where it's like she's a hostage. And then, the next video after it is like someone out the door, like, hey, sir, we're coming in. And then it's like a person, like a local newscaster at his outside. It's like, they've been in there for 3 hours, like whatever. And anyways, it just remixes this scene to this like total ridiculous thing. And like, that was one of those videos I remember seeing that could only be done on TikTok. Like it couldn't have been done anywhere else, which is sort of the value of the platform. So anyways, that's a long route of saying that, to your point, that like remixing what already works and putting your own creative spin on it is always a great strategy.
And I like how you were explaining that. There's a different example in my head, and I won't be able to describe it well, but it was like somebody doing something with their arm, and then people were remixing and adding pieces to the different
like
videos.
You know, robot arm.
Yeah. So it was like it's a conversation, and people are being a part of it, and that's. I mean, I smile so big. I don't know if you're going to see the video, but you can probably hear my smile because it literally is the part that I like the most about the internet is when people start playing off of it in a really heartwarming, like friendly kind of way, not in like the troll kind of way, but like they're giving this guy a hard time, and he probably was laughing. I hope he was laughing because I'm laughing for him. And, I think that is something that feels, you see it with memes and other channels and that sort of stuff. But I think on TikTok, you've seen it to another degree where people are joining into whatever this thing is. And it goes in and out of what the trend is, but that's part of what's really cool about it.
I love it. You touched a little bit on sort of your content strategy as you go into a new role. Obviously, right now you're not sitting in a company right this second. So imagine you're going into your next role. What is your thought process going in? How are you thinking about brand and content and your strategy there? Yeah.
Well, I am doing consulting and stuff, so I am working.
Yeah, well, I should say, by the way, if you want to hire Rhonda, just for consulting, tap in because clearly you're getting.
I'm interviewing with some companies too. It's actually a really good time. Make sure you use your brain in so many different ways when you start applying the strategies and the like approaches that you have to different audiences. But yeah, so I mean, generally speaking, I have this kind of mantra around creating value, not noise, which is my like driver to always think from the audience standpoint and try to be mindful of what channel they're on and where, what are they trying to do here? And obviously you got to think about your brand and what is authentic to you. And where do you find that convergence? Where do you find that connection point? Along with all the context of what's happening in this wild, wild world that we live in, And so it's like, it's a little bit of a puzzle trying to figure out where is that at? But, at the core of creating value, not noise, it's about putting the audience first and grounding strategies and data, because that data is going to tell you, did it land with that audience? Did it not? My favorite kind of marketing is when I can market to people that I intrinsically understand, because I can create more value for you. But most of my career, I have marketed to people who are not like me. And then I got to make friends with that person in my, organization, like the IT person. I'm like, hey, is this as dorky as I think it is? Or would it be valuable or whatnot? Or talk to customers or talk to the community just to kind of, if I'm going to put this amount of hours into creating something, I want it to be valuable to you. And I think it's going to be, but maybe it's not. Or maybe there's something that I could do that would make it even better. So I'm a big fan of like talking to people and saying, hey, is this doing what I think it would do? And if I had this many hours or this much money to put towards something, what's the most valuable thing I could do for you? And kind of trying to do that in a lot of different ways. But that data tells you whether it landed or not if you're not the audience. And you can't do that. I also think it's really important to think about where stories are told, not just what you're saying, but like the channel, the experience around it. I find that a lot of content teams, it's a little bit disconnected. You're creating the content over here and that's getting distributed over here. It's like, you should be mindful of where you're going to be distributing this when you're creating the thing. So,
100%.
It's such a key part of that.
And it's not just where, it's the utility. Like I talk about this all the time. I was just talking to Emily Kramer on Friday, and I was talking about I was going off on this tangent about utility, but I'm like, content inherently is a utility every single time. It's either to, you said connect, inspire, and educate. I say, educate, inspire, and entertain. So same difference. And but it's like, what are you trying to do in this moment?
Yep.
It's like, and what are they trying to do in this moment? And it's like, that's like where the rubber meets the road. It's like, this like second screen stuff. People go crazy. It's like, oh, people aren't watching, whatever anymore. It's like, they're just scrolling their phone and then they have friends on. It's like, that's the utility, right? It's like, that's what they want to be doing. So, people are like, oh, well, you shouldn't make second screen, whatever. People talk about like, oh, don't make movies too hard to, like too confusing, because then people won't have to like be able to, follow or whatever and all that sort of stuff. So anyways, all that to say, like, utility matters a ton.
Yeah. And I agree with you where you were going with movies there. It's like, I'm the kind of person, if you make it and you don't have any details that are a little bit random, then I'm like, oh, that's the killer right there. 5 minutes in, because you're the only reason you're putting them in this. So a lot of the blockbusters, it's like, you're so easy to guess the ending. I love indie because you throw some random stuff about people. You give a little bit more of like the things that don't necessarily have a purpose. It's just to give you more about this human.
I watched it wasn't a Hallmark movie, but it was something to that effect. And this is no shot at all to people who love Hallmark movies. Do your thing, live your best life. I was like, I'm so accustomed to watching other types of stuff. And I watched this because one of our friends was starring in it. And I was like, I don't know, whatever. It's a like full length movie. And there's like probably 8 minutes in. I was like, man, that's crazy that this guy's like, there's no way he's the killer. This is so obvious that he's the killer. And at the end of the movie, he literally was. And I was like, this was the most obvious, like, thing ever. I'm like, what? There was no, like, zero twist, like, at all. There was it was just like, they showed his face in the apartment and then that was it. He was the one who did it. It was so wild. My wife and I were talking afterwards. I was like, am I missing something? I felt like it ended early. I'm like, that was it? And then they just found him and they literally put him in cuffs and he went to jail. It's crazy.
Oh my gosh.
I couldn't believe it. Anyways.
I want somebody to make something that I don't guess the ending to,
Yeah. But somebody likes that stuff. My point being, somebody likes that type of stuff where they don't have to think at all and they know exactly what they're getting. That's great too. But for this other group of people, you need something different. That's a huge, huge difference, right?
Yeah. Well, and I will say there are sometimes you want to just put one of those feel good, you don't have to guess, maybe a show you've even seen before, so you totally know you're not guessing kind of stuff. So yeah, right place, right time. And going back to like the utility, like what are you trying to get out of this? Are you wanting like a brain teaser? Are you wanting something that's going to scare you? Or are you going to, or do you want something that's just going to like chill and you can scroll your phone whilst going about it? So
yeah. That's a great point, though, that it's like the rewatch, like if you rewatch Breaking Bad, you're just going to hang out with the characters because you already know everything that happens, so you don't have to pay attention. That's a great point. I've never thought of it that way, that it's like you could take a really complex show like Game of Thrones, and when you're rewatching it, it is sort of mindless content because you don't have to pay attention, even though, oh, that's great. See? We always make magic on this show.
It's like an old friend.
No, it is. And I like you inherently know that, but you can take a really complex show that's like thrilling and like mind melting when you first watch it. And maybe second time and maybe third time you notice a bunch of other stuff, but then it sort of just ends up being your friend. And that's the equivalent to that person's version of, Hallmark movie.
Yeah.
Fun.
I love that your friend was starring in it and you were like, oh, Hallmark movies.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. No, I know. It was, that's why, we like never, like we just have never even, she was great. Shout out to her.
That's cool.
I do, what you were saying about utility of content, I think that's one of the opportunities for a lot of content creators too in B2B is like, you see a lot, I'm a big fan of original research and like data-based reports. And people will put out these like state of reports and so much data. Or like peer studies, which I find so valuable to understand what others in my field think, feel, need, and expect so that I can better apply. Like that's what you guys were doing. Okay, great. I can do that too. But I was talking to this one company recently and I was explaining to them, I'm like, take it one step further. Think about what people are doing with that data. Like, yeah, full on report. Okay, great. But what as a social media practitioner, if I were looking at that data and I was using it to make a case internally for investment in something, I would pull that data point and go make a slide What if you did that for them? What if you created a white labeled slide deck? It's the same data, just in a different package, and you've made it that much more valuable because then they can just pull those slides and use them. And you may be already creating those slides for your sales team to use in pitch deck. So like just connecting the dots between these things takes it one step further. And a lot of times that like, ooh, if you did this, it would make it that much more valuable, comes from the conversations with your customers or the people that are like consuming this content. Is like, if you would have just done this, then it would have made it even better. Okay, great. Let's go do that.
I love that. Rhonda.
Yes.
This has been a wonderful conversation. Final question here. What is one piece of advice that you would give to other marketing leaders who are trying to figure out their brand content and overall marketing strategy here?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think we talked a lot about the like value of having fun, because I feel like that tends to be the stuff not only that stands out, but also that like makes your team feel better about the work and more proud of the work that they're doing. So I'm not going to use that as my answer. I'm going to like say that that's still a really important thing and do that. I think it's about not forgetting that your job is to create value, and what value is depends on who your audience is and what they're doing and all that kind of stuff that we talked about, because it's so core. I think it's really easy to get caught up in creating more and more content and more campaigns. And it's just like running to stay in place. But the brands that, to me, the companies that feel like they win are the ones that are really always putting their audience in the center and trying to figure out a way to be useful and be human and be playful. And to do things just a little bit outside of what is expected, because that's the thing that your brain is like, I don't want to pay attention to anything. But if it wiggles over here, and it's like, it's got a little something that was unexpected. One, it's going to make you smile, but then two, it's going to be the thing that makes it stand out, which is really what the key of marketing is, right? So, yeah, so that would be my advice.
Such a fun conversation. Thanks so much for joining. Any final thoughts? Anything to plug?
No, I mean, this has been fun. I enjoyed chatting about this with you guys. I feel like there's so much inspiration out there, and I will definitely be pinging those companies that I highlighted to tell them what a great job they're doing, because I feel like anytime you see somebody out there in the world doing something that you're like, that's cool, tell them that, because it is hard to keep your confidence going related to this. So I try to remember, if I think it, then I want to say it to them, even if it comes from like a random space, some random girl that talked about them on a podcast.
That's right.
Yeah, so cool. These were great ideas. I love this. Creators. Thanks, Rhonda. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Well, that's it for today. I hope you got some good ideas for your B2B content. Thank you for listening to Remarkable. I'm Ian Faison, CEO of Caspian Studios. Remarkable is created by the team at Caspian Studios, B2B podcast as a service. Caspian also creates fiction series for B2B companies, so if you want a business thriller, you can learn more at caspianstudios.com. Hollywood-style storytelling for B2B. And in today's episode, you heard from myself, Ian Faison, and Meredith O'Neill, senior producer here at Caspian Studios. Remarkable was produced this week by Meredith O'Neill, mixed by Scott Goodrich, and our theme song is Solomon by Falak. Be remarkable and rise above the noise.